Buffett's building more cash, and the Dow Jones is shaking up its holdings. Now, we know at the beginning of this year, in February, Amazon replaced Walgreens, but there's been some serious moves made over the last 48 hours. Nvidia is now replacing Intel in the Dow Jones. And along with Nvidia, Sherwin-Williams is now set to take over Dow Chemicals. So we're getting a pretty significant shakeup in the Dow Jones. We're watching Buffett build a tremendous amount of cash, and we have a presidential election tomorrow. Definitely a lot of moves being made, but this is why stock markets keep going higher and higher and higher, is because they change as companies progress. And this is why we really talk about having exposure to a well-diversified index. Now, personally, I recommend a global index because as the United States gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it's going to be harder for it to grow at a rapid pace. But when we look at emerging markets, there's some really great opportunities in emerging markets. And as we see, just by owning a Dow or owning any index, it's nice that management comes in and replaces companies that have been underperforming and puts in companies that are not only outperforming, but are pretty much revolutionary to what the economy is doing. A company like Amazon was put in the Dow Jones because not only did they want exposure to retail, but they wanted exposure to cloud computing. And the way that Amazon's technology has been putting to our economy, there's many ways that we transact with Amazon. Now, when we look over the last year, Nvidia is up 203%, while Intel is down 41, nearly 42%. Nvidia has the AI capabilities that no other company really has right now, and Intel's really looking like a fallen brand. Now, there's multiple things I want to talk through here. Now, if Trump gets elected, I do think we could see a run of a lot of M&A action taking place, which could bode well for a company like Intel that's had a lot of talks about being taken over. But the other thing a Trump presidency could bring to the table is a block of the CHIPS Act. He may look at this as wasted money that government shouldn't be spending, and that could really devalue Intel's future. A big part of what's keeping Intel held up is the future of government money being pushed in and being more reliant on domestic fabrication when it comes to chip manufacturing. Now, off of this news, we're seeing a pretty significant sell-off in Intel. Just after reporting some interesting earnings, showing that they could be stabilizing here and the turnaround could have started, we're seeing Intel sell-off being kicked out of the Dow for Nvidia. Now, I've done analysis on Intel, and I think there's two different ways you need to look at this company. Number one, you need to look at it as a possible takeover. And number two, you need to look at it as, what is this company really worth with all the turmoil? Now, this is a pretty volatile stock, but where I find it interesting is when it gets back in the teens. Basically around $18 a share is where I would probably take a little bit of risk on a company like Intel. But that's me if I want to buy the stock and hold it, hoping for them to get this turned around, hoping for them to be a player once again. But as always, guys, we can hope in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up faster. But I do think the turnaround has started for Intel. Now, if Intel got bought out, my prediction would be that it would probably get bought out between $30 to $35 a share, slightly below what I believe fair market value is in 2030, which is going to lead me to why Buffett is carrying so much cash. Now, $325 billion is the most cash that Buffett's ever held. So it's a couple different things that go in my head here. He's obviously going to pay taxes on this money now and get the tax burden out of the way with new presidents coming to the forefront. Who knows what's going to happen with taxes, and the deficits that we're running, most likely taxes are going to have to go up. Now he's rolling this $325 billion in 4 to 5% treasuries, and we all know Buffett can do better than 4 or 5%, which is making me scratch my head and wonder, what opportunities is Buffett seeing? Personally, I think there's going to be a lot of M&A activity if President Trump gets in the office, which would allow Buffett to really put a lot of this capital to work and build out Berkshire Hathaway's moat a little bit bigger. But where would Buffett put his money if Kamala Harris wins? And that's where I have a hard time figuring out where Buffett would put money if Kamala wins. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think Buffett's going to do with this amount of money he's hoarding. And as most of you know on this channel, I do think next year is going to bring some turbulent times, and sometimes doing nothing and sitting on cash is okay. And I think Buffett is literally taking that advice right now. So when we take a look at how the Dow Jones is positioned, some names that are actually sticking out to me that could be replaced in the near future, Boeing definitely comes to mind for me personally. I think it's very similar to Intel in a lot of ways. They're burning a tremendous amount of capital. They're losing market share. And when we go down to the bottom of this list, we see Intel and Dow Chemicals, both that are going to be replaced. As I stated, Dow Chemicals is going to be replaced by Sherwin-Williams, and Intel is going to be replaced by Nvidia. I'm not sure what the weighting is going to be in both of these stocks, but we will keep an eye on that. And so with the election literally 24 hours away, it is pretty crazy times. I can't believe we're really here now. It's wild how fast time goes. And as much crazy stuff has going on, the market seems to just keep being resilient and go higher and higher and higher. And if you're invested in an index, you can see that it's professionally managed here. They take out the laggers and they put in the innovators. So you don't have to worry about it. You just set it and forget it. But for those individual stock pickers, it's definitely crazy times. And it's harder and harder to pick who's the winners and who the losers. Very narrow breath in this market. But I do think there is some volatility coming that's going to present some great opportunities for individual stock pickers. As always, guys, really appreciate your time, and we will see you all in the next one.